Tonight is Shvat, Samech Tes. We're learning in Hemshik Samech Tes of the Rebbe Shab on Ahmed Tes 5.
So there was once nice that it happened that one of the big Hasidim came into the Rebbe Shab, and he spoke to him, and he saw that the Rebbe didn't hear him good. So he noticed that he had difficulty in hearing what he was saying. So he sort of made a sign, what's happened, So the Rebbe said that he doesn't hear in one ear. I'm not sure if it's the right or the left. He's just not hearing in that ear. So I said, what happened? What's the problem? So the Rebbe said that a few nights ago he was saying Maimach Siddur. He said Maimach Siddur, but it was like in a different place, or it was like the table was closer to one of the walls than usual. And on the other side of the wall, there were two people who were talking in quite loud voices. And either they didn't know, or I don't know how it happened, but they didn't realize that there was the Rebbe was saying a maimah, and the whole big oilam of the city on the other side of the wall. So the Rebbe said it was maval him in saying the maimah. He could hear that these voices were maval him. So he asked the Eibishter, he decided, and he asked the Eibishter to help him that he wouldn't hear in that ear, and he'd be able to say to him, and it wouldn't be mavalvi because he wouldn't hear it coming from. And his own voice would sort of block off the rest of it, and he'd be able to go ahead with the maimah. So Taki, from that reg on, he didn't hear in that ear. So it was only by Chaste Hashem that gradually he began to hear it back in the ear. That's nice. And the Rebbe Melech Moshe brings to my sin. It's either in Chelik Aleph or Chelik Gimel, right near the end. It's like sort of almost like a footnote, like a long footnote at the end of the Sefer. That's bring the Rebbe. That's very nice. All right. So I told you, and you got it. So we're holding on the end of Ahmed Tes 4. What's with what's his name? The guy that Shachnowitz, he's not well. What's his problem?
He was here this morning and he was not feeling well, and he told Rabbi Bolton that he had to go home.
No, he hasn't been feeling well for a long time. What's with the other guy? So we started the Ayin HaMahavas HaYesh, in other words, the Ayin HaBeis. With the Hefreach Loima, we're obliged to say that it's in some form of a Metzias Dovama. In other words, not a Metzias Klau like the Metzias of the Yesh Anivra, of a Choponim with Gabi the Pshitas of Elikus and the Pshitas of the Ayin HaAleph, then it's already a certain Metzias Dovama that we can describe it as having a certain Metzias Bifnei Atzmei. It's not betachlis a beetle be'etzem Metzius ele gabi der moya. Ma shenikra ayin, I don't have say why is it called ayin? It's a form of a yesh. It's a Metzias Dovama. So he said, Hainu shehu b'chinas loi dover. That it's a inyan from loi dover. V'zeu legabi b'chinas dover. Da'ainu Metzias hayesh to oilames. He said, who, meaning the ayin, is b'chinas loi dover. Yes, the yesh of oilames is called dover, and the ayin HaMahava is called loi dover. Now this is based on a lashon which occurs in certain of the early Chochlim. Ha'elokim, the Jewish people, be'ikeh in Rabbeinu Sadia Goyen, occurs in his work, and he describes the creation of the Oilams, and particularly the creation of the Oilam HaTachton, Taktein as Dovo Miloi Dovo. In other words, a thing from that which is not thing. In other words, a Dovo in Lashon Kodesh is a word referring to something specific and identifiable in its own limitations. And that's what you call a Dovo. What he meant to say was, the early Chachrim, they wanted to say that the Ayin HaMahava, that Dovo, is a complete negation of that Dovo Kamoishahu. And therefore they said in the usage of the two terms, you got something that you want to talk in that sefer? Keeps on looking at his sefer. You got something in over there?
I was showing him where the place was.
That's the union from Dovo, and so therefore we want to be shoiler and negate completely the oifen, the Matthias of the Ayin HaMahave, which is the Ayin base for our purposes. So we call that Loi Dovo. Now, the Ikea, where he used that expression, and the other Chokrim, was beneged to the Yesh HaGashmi. In other words, the Yesh HaTaktoin in Olam Hazeh. What we say in another place, we say that Yesh, Hisavas, HaGashmius, Min HaRuchnius, Ein Lecho, Yesh Mi'ayin Godel Mizeh. That's already from the Sefer Ikrim. He was another very early, the Rabbeinu, what was his name? Elbaz was his, I forgot. Chaim Yosef, I think, Elbaz or Elbaz, yeah. The Sefer Ikrim, he says that the Etzem Gashmi comes from Aruchni, that's our Ayin HaBeis, the Ein Lecho Yesh Me'ayin Godel Mizeh, meaning that in the elements Hadyenim, there are also inyanim for Yesh Me'ayin. Malchus Tatzilus produces Chochma de Bria, example, that's already Yesh Me'ayin, the Gabi Malchus Tatzilus. And Chochma de Yetzira from Malchus de Bria is also Yesh Me'ayin. Oid Kama inyanim which can be described as Yesh Me'ayin. But it's not in any way comparable to the Yesh Me'ayin of the Gashmi Lamata, because that's a unit for Gashmius. It mamish becomes a separate identifiable entity in its own right, which is the Choyma HaGeshem. And that's a Yesh Me'ayin She'ein Godel Me, and Ein Lecha Godel Yesh Me'ayin Godel Mizeh. And that's what they mean, a dovar, miloi dovar. In other words, a dovar only means a identifiable, specific entity, with all the inyanim, as you might say, the sheish ketzoves, how to go with the 6 definable sides that there are in Gashmiyas. And so how do we say, how does that relate, and how does that compare to the inyan which was Mahavir? So we say, that which was Mahavir was Loidova, completely and utterly the shell. In other words, it's the shlila and complete, what you might call, cancelling of any error between Zela and Lazeh. And that's the reason why they gave it such a categorically negative terminology. They said this was Dova, and that was Loidova. So the Rebbe says that inyan, what it means to say, however, for our purposes, and the Miti say inyan, that's only compared to the Yesh of the Elamas, compared to the Ruchniyas of the Ayin HaBei. Ruchniyas, Vagashmiyas, Ein Lecha Tova Yesh Me'ayin Godel Mizeh. And therefore that's Dova, and this is Loidova. Or if we compare to higher, we take the Ayin HaBei, we compare it to the Ayin HaAlah, we compare it to the Atzmas, then we say it is already B'chinas Matzias Dova. B'chinas Matzias Dova, Ruchni, L'gabi HaHayim HaDregin Ruchni, a higher state of bittul in Ruchni. But L'gabi the Yesh, then it's absolutely Ayin from Shlila Muchlete, is Ayin from Loi Dova. Follow? So it depends on which direction you're running. If you're running towards the Yesh or the Elamus, then it's Loidova, absolute negation. If you're comparing to higher, then it is a Matzias Dova. Those are the point. The Ainu Matzias HaYesh to Elamus. Yeah, like Gabi that is B'chinas Loidova. V'zeh Muchach mitzad ha'oilamus kufa. Although we have to say that the oilamus became an even of dovo, miloi dovo, that is comparable and compulsory to say just mitzad in the very essence of the oilamus in their own right. The kashem shematzias hayesh. Makriach loimer sha'amokeh ha'mahavu b'chinas matzias dovo. That just like from one side, we've been saying the whole time, that if we already see a matzias of a yesh, let's take the yesh, Gashmi, the yesh, Amisaver, then we have to say that the mokeh which produced that was a inyan from a certain matzias dovo. It had to have a certain state of being a matzias, that we've argued here already several times in the last passage in the Maimah, that for something to be a mokeh for something else, then it has to be a certain matzias. You can't be a mokeh if you're just bittul b'kol etzem hamatziyah. And therefore, since we say the yesh becomes a yesh, then we have to say that the mokeh is a matzias dover, and that's mukhrach mi yesh atzmei. Since the yesh is mamish a yesh, a dover, then we have to say that the mokeh, which is mahaverim, is also a form of a matzias yesh. Mashen Ken, now he puts in brackets a very challenging inyan, which is not the case ba'oyer u'moyer. Ein ha'oyer machriach shahamoyer hu b'chinas matzias ma. So now, says the Rebbe, that is in yesh me ayin. In other words, where we got the ayin and we got the yesh, then the yesh is machriach that the ayin has to be some form of ayin for matzias. I would call it loy dova. That's only like having the etzem gashmi of the yesh. But it is some form of matzias by definition. However, we have another case where something derives from something else, and there we wouldn't say that the thing which derives is machriach, that the thing that produced it must be some form of matzias yet. What is that? The two concepts of ur and ma'or. Now, ma'or means the luminary, the source of light, and the ur means the ur which is made from the luminary, from the source of the light. So one of the dugmois that we bring in many places and says for the source of light is the shemesh. It's a luminary. It's a source. It's a burning ball which gives off light. It goes. I mean, all the light that we emanate from here on the earth and other places in the atmosphere, etc., etc. It's all from the oyer which goes off from the shemesh. So he says, that oyer is not machriach that the moya is an ayin oifim from matzias ma. Why? Why not? If you got oyer and it's coming from somewhere, then that means it's being produced by something, and that something must be a something. He says no. Why? Ki ha-moyer einu moker l'hoyer. Well, that klal, that something has to be a matzias, to be a moker for something else, is only when you're talking about a mokeh. And as we said on many occasions already, a mokeh means something which has got a certain kiruv, and the mokeh is poel, the matzias. It in some way acts to produce that matzias. And that's what we call poel ve-nifal sometimes. Since the mokeh is acting and going through certain activities, as you might say, within itself to produce the dover which comes forth, then that's some form of matzias dover. It can't be nothing in order to go through those activities in order to produce the dover which is misaber mimeno. Therefore, it's something. Where is it with the inyan from oyer or moya? The moya is not a makor to the earth. Pirush that the moya doesn't make any activity or has no reaction within itself in order to produce the oyer. No, the oyer is nimtza mina moya b'derech mamela, and that's what he goes on to say. Kiim sha'oyer nimtza mimenu b'derech mamela v'lochein mi ha'oyer efshar lanu leida oifen matzias hamoyer bi'etzem. In other words, that from oyer we can't have any knowledge whatsoever of the ma'or, from whence it is in the very essence of itself. Now we can have certain knowledges, because we even time that the oyer is me'eina moyer, which means it's got certain very close similarities to the moyer. So we can know something from the oyer about the moyer. He said, how? Yeah, you can know certain inyonim, but you can't know the etzem mahus of the ma'or uklau. Because the etzem mahus is moved over taklis, and what goes off is only a luminescence bilvad, which has no shayat to cloud to the etzem mahus of the moyer, and doesn't involve the moyer doing anything or being any form of mocker for that oyer. So therefore, one of them is the oyer is no raya or richocha klal legabi the moyer. All we know is that the moyer just produces him in the form of a ha'or and a luminescence bilvat. You tell me that ein lanu kol yediyah in the etzem moyer from the oyer. You tell me that it's just that there's certain things we say, and we'll soon go into that in a second. We do say that there is a certain similarity in the oyer to the moyer, but that's mitzad another inyan, not so much mitzad the etzem yachas of the moyer to the oyer. V'lochein mi ha'oyer efshar lanu leida the oifen of the mitzid, the oifen of the mitzid. We can know that there is a moyer. How that? Yeah. That there is such a thing as a moyer, we can know, because the oyer wouldn't be moyer if there wasn't a moyer. But we can't know the oifen, the manner of that mitzid in its very essence. Well, that we can't know. V'hainu, he said, gam bo'oyer v'ziv ha'shemesh, for example, shehu me'ein ha'moyer, hainu shemi ha'ziv anu yoidim sha'amoyer mahus oyer. He said, even in a case where we taina that we do know something in the ziv, which tells me about the moyer, for example, he said, in the case of the oil of the shemesh, that's me'ein hamoyer, it's similar to and has a close similarity to the moyer. What does that mean? Hainu shemi haziv anu yoidim, we can know that the moyer is mahus oyer. Mahusa is oyer. In other words, we know from the oyer of the shemesh that the shemesh is a luminary. He's a light. He's a lit up thing. He's a mahusa. Mikol makim oifen mahusa oyer eich umahu einonu yoidim miazi. But the oifan, the manner and the mahus of that, how it is in the moyer, einonu yoidim miazi. In other words, exactly what type of ball of fire the shemesh is, and what type of light it really is, and its very essence, that we can't know klal from the oil. We don't know anything about it. All we know is from the oil that there is such a thing as a shemesh. And therefore, exactly what goes on in the actual oil of the shemesh in its very most, that we have no knowledge from the oil whatsoever. Just that the oil carries in itself, that just like the shemesh is a dover of oil, we don't know what sort of oil. So then, oil gives off light. So then the ha'ora and the luminescence from the sun also gives light. But not necessarily that they are the same mahus of oil. They're two different types of oil altogether. And B'klal, we have no knowledge of what sort of oil the shemesh is from the oil hameya mimeno. And that's what he says now. Mikol mokim oiva mahus oil, meaning the oil of the shemesh itself, eichu mahu ein only yoidim me'aziv, from the luminescence. Ki, why not? Hamoya u nivdal be'erech me'aziv, she'enu moke elov, rak shehu nimtza mimeno. Because the oil of aziv, which goes off from the shemesh, is not a moke with a nifal mimeno. It's not that the shemesh acts or produces within itself activities which give rise to the oil. No, the oil just happens to be nimtza from the shemesh. Therefore, the shemesh is not a mocker to the oil b'klal. And since he's not a mocker, then he's another type of Matthias altogether from the Indian of the oil. He's not the same Matthias klal. And as far as the oil is concerned, he ain't no Matthias. He can't tell you anything really about his emerson. Matthias umahus of his Matthias. And why? Because he's only nimtzah mimena, not b'derech moke. For Kol Shechein, how much more so? If that's like it is in the Indian from Shemesh. And Oyer HaShemesh, what there, after all, things which are already there in the Oilam Kashmi, and we can sort of at least observe them in some way, and we come to know the relationship of Oyer mit Moyer, and we can come to the knowledge of those Klalim, how much more so Lamaila, how much more so in the fact that the Eibishter, the Etzem Atzmus is called Moyer, and the Oyer which is Meir Mimeno is called Oyer. And how much more so we can't know anything from the Oyer about Atzmus Elokus. If even in things which we can observe, the Oyer doesn't teach me anything about the Etzem Mahus and the Oifen of the Mahus of the Moyer, how much more so Maila that the Oyer is Beklau no raya whatsoever to the Oifen of the Etzem of the Moyer. So therefore he says, Kol Shechein Lamaila. How much more so Lamaila? And what is the Kol Shechein? Or even Yoter Mizeh. Not only just that that's Elikus, that's not something we can observe, but he says, the B'emes ein aziv me'eino etzem mamish, akamoish kosim mizeh b'mokim acha b'dibo maschol zarua la tzadik. It's a peli in some of these defusim, of these forim, that they allow things like that to get by. That there is zarua la tzadik. I mean, that could be, one of thousands of Maimorim from the Rabbeim, and the results to this welcome Maimon that says, from hundreds of Maimorim from the Alter Rebbe, from hundreds of the Mittler Rebbe, from thousands of the Tzemach Tzedek, and from hundreds and hundreds of all the other Rabbeim, gave a welcome Maimon that says, he said, well, I can't really help you with that. I don't know what Drush it's referring to. And that Drush, that the Oyer Lamaila is not really Me'ein Ha'etzem, even though we say it is Me'ein Ha'etzem. We do say, for our purposes, that it is Me'ein Ha'etzem. He said, but the emes is that the relationship of the Moyer with the Oyer Lamaila is so mystifying and so amazing that we can't really use that klal in the full sense, Oyer Me'ein HaMoyer, and therefore we don't really mean it, even though we do mean it. We use it, but we don't really mean it because the Moyer is so high compared to the Oyer that you can't really say that the Oyer is Me'ein HaMoyer. So I saw the Shalof is wish it was, if you say it's Oyer V'Moyer, then why don't you go the whole way? Why do you say by Shemesh we can observe it? It's already in the realm of Nivroim that we can say that Oyer is Yemein HaMoyer. As much as we can use that cloud, then the Oyer is Me'ein HaMoyer. Even though we do it, but at least benegir to certain inyanim from the Atzmas, which are nimshochim b'toich ha'oyer, then we do say that Oyer Me'ein HaMoyer. Or we don't really mean it. We can't possibly say that the Oyer is really Me'ein HaMoyer. If we should do. So, as is all to Shaila B'Klau, what is the Svara and what is the Nakuda of Oyer Me'ein HaMoyer? What is the Nakuda for them? Well, that's what we say, that the Oyer is Dovuk B'HaMoyer. In other words, that Oyer has to be completely and utterly cloven to the Moyer, otherwise it has no Metzias even. You can't even talk about Oyer. In other words, if you were to be Mabdil, the Oyer from the Shemesh, it's just not Oyer. The whole Indian of Oyer, if somehow or another you could separate the Oyer from that fluorescent, then you just don't have Oyer. I mean, there's no Chayah B'Klal. The whole Indian of Oyer is only when it's Dovuk, Tachlis, Dveik is in the thing which is giving it up. And therefore, since the Oyer is B'Tachlis HaDveikis in the Moyer, and therefore we can say that the Oyer is Me'ein HaMoyer, Mitzad HaDveikis. Mitzad the emes HaDveikis. And that's not just Stam HaDveikis, but the HaDveikis Atzmiyas, because otherwise there is no Machias Klal, if not the HaDveikis. And therefore, mitzad that Dveikus and that cleavage and that kiruv atzmiya, the Oyer to the Moyer, the far I say that the Oyer is Me'ein HaMoyer. It's so close and so cloven to the Moyer, therefore it's got itself, Me'ein, it takes itself certain inyanim. Even though I don't say there, it's absolutely like the Moyer, but I say it's Me'ein, but I get to certain inyanim, and I can mean that in the fullest extent. However, the Inif and the Oyer Maila, and here Shemesh, I'm sorry, the Ur HaMeya MiHaKodesh Baruch Hu, the Ur which is Meya from the Atzma Seitei, you can't really say that that is in the same oifen that all other Moyas give off their light. In other words, even though we say that that's Ur and that is Moya, but the embassy Sabbath of the Ur Mia Moya, we don't know how that is. We have no knowledge. V'yazoi, Atzma Seitei functions. We have absolutely no knowledge. How come that he B'chlau gives forth this thing that we call Ur? And therefore it's brought down in the Kutei Torah, one of the Maimonim for Rosh Hashanah, the Alter Rebbe writes over there that the Oya Min HaMoya is really Yesh Mi'ayin. It's not B'derech Oya Mi HaMoya B'chlau. Why do we call it Oya HaMoya? Because we have no other way of describing it, because in that Ha'ora which he gives off, he does allow certain things to come over, which are from the Atzma. I know the Koyach HaSavis in the earth, the ability to produce ultimately Yesh Mi'ayin. Well, that remains in the earth the whole way through, right down to the Ayin HaBei, and that's from the Atzma. So in that respect, we say Oyer Mi'ayin HaMoya, but we don't mean by definition Oyer Mi'ayin HaMoya like we do by the Oyer HaShemesh with the Shemesh. We're using that as a Shem HaMushal, as like a borrowed concept. And we say the Ur is Mi'ayin HaMoya L'mayla, or the way that the Ur comes off from the Atzmas, we don't know what happened. We say the Atzmas works, we know he also on the Atzmas gives off, he's like a Shemesh, he gives off oil, but absolutely not. And one of the Nakudas we say is that we see the way our Ur is Meya for the Shemesh, well, that's a Dover B'derech Mamela, as we call it. It just happened. If there's a Shemesh, then it'll give off oil. But a Mamela Cholila to say that, because there's a Eibush, he gives off oil. And the whole Inyan from the oil of Mamela is a deliberate decision. It's an Inyan Rotini, absolute, on the part of the Eibush. Remember how he does that, we don't even know what it means he has a rotzen. Those ways Merechnish wasn't a pshat. And it's brought down in the Kutei Torah that the Amitis Inyan of Gila Oya Mi'amoya L'mayla is Yesh Mi'ayin. For Wuzirut is Yesh Mi'ayin. Yesh Mi'ayin is a kasha for Meiser. He had absolutely nothing, also he got something right there. I tell you, Dema, he's a poil. It's brought down in Sir Taloya there. Tacholach Shovos and Meya Shona is the lawyer Zolach HaKlov. Atalot Teida, how Mamish Ayin produces there. Atalot Teida, the Olambo. Amamir picked to say that's the way you'll ever understand how Oyer is Nimshik for Moya Kaviyoh, the Atzma. Imam, come to it. He said the Atzma is really not a Moya. He's not really a Moya. The whole term Moya for the Atzma is a borrowed term. It's a Shem HaMushal. And therefore the Oyer is also not a Emerson. We weiß nicht beklau, wie die ganze Sache arbeitet. And therefore the Rebbe said, that's what we use that in for Oyer Mi'ayin HaMoya. That's a chesed from the Eibus. They allowed that happened. Yeah, today that certain things should work, and we should be able to understand them. Aber so, ein Dovach. And therefore he says, that's the pshat, that Kosh Kein L'mayla, the B'yemes Ein Aziv Mi'ayin HaMoya. You can't really say that. It's only just for certain purposes that the Eibush allows that to happen. I know he gives through there certain koiches, which we also don't know how they are in him. Says, upon him, he does allow them to go over in the Ur. Not because the Ur is Mamish Mi'ayin HaMoya. Only in that prat. It has a certain visitation from the koich of the Atzmas. And therefore we use the expression, Ur Mi'ayin HaMoya. To say Ur Mi'ayin HaMoya, say Eif Shalom. And over so the Rebbe does the Inyan the oil with the Moya. That what you have oil L'mayla from the Atzmas nimto. It's just there. It's just found. It just so happens it comes out from the Eibush of this oil. Eichuma. It doesn't even nimto mimeno bilvad. Since nimto mimeno bilvad, then the Moya is not a Matthias like Avidi. Well, you got a mocky with a dollar, Nimshumi a mocky, then has to be a Matthias and also Matthias. Man, they can be Rachoikim Zemizet, Dova Valoido, over also Matthias and also Matthias. Obviously, with the from the Moya, even with the Shemesh and the that's not a Matthias like Avida. It's like another Indian altogether. How much more so La Maila? How much more so La Maila? It's like Amri Mashua. Aber in our terms, the Ayin HaBeis has already come down and der Tzimtzum. Gilui, that it is able to be a Metzias Dover, it can produce me the Yesh. He says, Kain hu machriach sha'hamokeh hu b'chinas loy Dover. He said, just like the Yin of the Yesh is machriach, that the mokeh, which brings him about, must be a form of a Metzias, which is not the case by Avamoya. He said in the same way, the Yesh is machriach, that the mokeh is b'chinas loy Dover. In other words, how do you call it? Having a cake and eat it too. In other words, that on one hand, the Yesh is machriach, we have to say that the mokeh is b'chinas Metzias Dover. And yet we say at the same time, he's machriach, that Metzias Dover is the gabiyim loy Dover. In other words, it's the gabi the shlila of his Metzias. Of al chaponim, the gabi atzmus, it is some form of Metzias. He said, Kainu machriach shamokehu b'chinas loy Dover. Why? Ki efsher liyos, it's impossible for it to be his avos Dover mi Dover. Like we put down earlier in the Maimah, the hainu yesh mi yesh. Here we are at the end, towards the end of the first Maimah, that efsher liyos yesh mi yesh Elohim kein yesh ayin be empty. That you can't have the one limited yesh will produce you another. But there his havos Elohim kein there's a ayin be. Ayin be'emtza. The reason for that being that since the Yesh is already a Dover which is limited, he's mugbal be'etzim Metziusei, then he can't produce something else. He can only do things for you which is Metzius will allow him to function. But he doesn't have the core to produce another Metzius me'ain mimena, except for the Maral Miprag. After the Maral Miprag, he may be managed it. But also, the Sipurim HaMagiyim Eleinu, tend to indicate that the Goylem he was a normal human being. It's some sort of, amazing sort of a creature. But Mamish, the Yesh, Agashmi, even man with all of his unbelievable brilliance, when the thing you do is, he can't produce, another, Yesh. And not only that, the Medrash says that he can't even produce the wing of a mosquito. So you tell me, we have to talk to them, maybe they're producing some sort of a sort of microscopic tool or something, and the next thing is that they'll produce you the wing of a mosquito. But what's written in the Medrash, they can't produce you the wing of the mosquito, ulahatil boina nishoma. And to put into it a nishoma, that they can't do. In other words, they might dream up some sort of they'll make you all little winny particles of the wing of a mosquito, or to make it alive the way the mosquito's alive. That they won't be able to do. Is imamele kuptois. One Metzias Yesh can't possibly produce another Metzias Yesh, because it's mugbal be'etzem Metzius, and to produce something which is a hisavos, mamish mitchila, that should become a living being from nothing. That only occurs which is beyond the Dover HaMisava, and incomparably beyond him can do it. Over the Dover which already came about, he can't produce another one, even a wing of a Yakush Koton. And over the Rebbe, we have to say, does a zicha, that when I see the Yesh in the form of a Dover, then I have to say, that Bavadai, that which was Mahavahim, is in the form of a Ayin, and even from Loi Dover. Because Efshali Yisavas Yesh me, Bekasha Anu Royim Metzias Yesh, then Behechreach Shiyasavahu Minha Ayin. Then I have to say that he came about from the Ayin. Well, that's the two extremities. On the one hand, I have to say that he came about from things which is Metzias Dover. If it wasn't a Metzias, it can't be a Makor. However, on the other hand, I have to say that Makor is not like our Metzias at all. It's a from Ayin Legabi our Metzias. In other words, it's completely another form of Matthias altogether, like Gabi our Matthias, of an epis of Matthias, like Gabi Atzmas, it has to be. So both things are true, and the in and the yesh is machriach both of them. If you look at the yesh carefully, then how do you call it? It compels you to say both of those in. I was in kol zeh who rakl Gabi Matthias the oilamers. All this is like Gabi the in and the Matthias of yesh me ayin the way the oilamers are mamish yesh, and particularly the yesh are gashmi lamata. Lo yishu b'chinas ayin be'etzem mohusay, but not that ayin and that loy dovar is ayin be'etzem mohusay, like we said, because he's also machriach that he must be some form of Matthias dovar, and therefore he's not ayin in his very etzem mohusay. Adarabah, be'etzem mohusay b'chinas Matthias, like we just said, he's a Matthias dovar. Rakshu b'chinas Matthias ruchni shalagabi ayesh to'ilam. Who b'chinas loy dover, and like we said before, that's the Sefer Ikrim that he adds to that statement that the Savas agashmius min aruchnius ein lechoyesh me'ayin godel me. He's there. In other words, that there is such a Matthias, which is the Mokia, but that Matthias is ruchni, and you are gashmi. The first two in your was ein lehem kol shaychas zel zeh klau of a zicher. It is a form of some sort of a Matthias, because it's a Matthias Ruchni, and it's a Matthias Kashmi. And that's why we call it Ayin. In other words, it's coming, we're building up a picture, that the reason we call it Ayin, not because it's not anything, but like Gabi Dein, and what we're talking about, it's the Shlila, it's Loi Dova. This is Dova, and this is Loi Dova. Of Be'etzim Ha'inyan Shaloi, it is a Matthias. It's not a Dova, but it is a Matthias. That's the argument that we're building up for this ayin habay. So, Masha'anu Kairim, we say ayin, or that what we do give him the name ayin, who al shem shu b'chinas loy dova legabi oilamas amishavim me. In other words, why do you call him the infant ayin? Because he's not that type of Matthias that the oilamas are. And we'll see in another minute, another nakuda is that they don't really know of that Matthias at all. They can't really grasp that Matthias. Just like you can't even grasp the nefesh, it's a b'toich haguf shulchan. You can't be masig ruchnius beklau. And therefore we call ruchnius ayin. Ozeh ma she'anu kodim, I say, ayin hu al shem shu b'chinas loy dover legabe ha'elamet. V'gam, another point, mipnei she'enu musag lanu. Because we can't really appreciate that ayin. Shari Mahusa, any Yadulanu Klau. His Mahusa is not known to us. Even though he's only the ayin abayz, the Gavi Alakus, he's only a Matthias Dover. But we have absolutely no understanding of a Dover Ruchni portion. How much was a Dover Ruchni, which can actually be Mahavana, Dover, Miloy Dover? How much more so? And therefore we call it ayin because we're just not masig what it really is. Dim loy kain, because if we were masig what it is, loy hoya machias yei. If we were able to be masig, was it the ayin? Then we'd be bottled with takusah a bitl to the ayin. The whole fact that we can be a machias yesh, like I be the ayin, because we're not masig him. But just imagine if you were masig the ayin, then you would know every second, like the Alter points out over there in Shara Yichud, that your whole Matthias is managed with the ayin. The truth is, you have any Matthias? D. Matthias Beklau. The whole Matthias managed with the ayin. If Amel says the Rabbi, if it weren't for the fact that we're not masig the ayin, then there wouldn't be any yesh. In other words, if you were masig the ayin, and therefore, it has to be, even that it's completely not us, and therefore it's loy dovo, and therefore in that sense it's ayin. But it can be a Matthias, it's already ayin of a Matthias. So that's the two extremities in the ayin habay. Okay, Naida, the elikus, yes, urak yadua Matthias veloy ma. Elikus, even in the low level of being an ayin, which is already mahavad yesh, all we know is that it's there. We don't know anything about its essence. We have no knowledge whatsoever of what it really is about. And he says, not only that, Masha Yadua Mitziusei, whatever we happen to know that it's there, it exists. Gam kein ene beginnes Yadia Mamish B'Mitziusei Echo Mahu. And even though we only know that it's there, even in that kuf we don't know anything about it, we just know that it's there. But that Yidiyas HaMashiach doesn't grant us any knowledge in the Echo Ma. What Echo Ma means, the how and the what of it. We don't have any knowledge in the how and the what. Cloud, we just know it, we just happen to know it's there. That's what we call Yidiyas HaMashiach greater, Yidiyas HaMashiach stam. And if says that's why we call it ayin v'lochein anu koyrim we say ayin. Avaloshu beginners ayin be'et. He's not mamish ayin because the Gabi higher than him. In Elikus, he's already a Matthias Dov. He's not ayin be'et. He's only like Gabenu. The two things work in depending in which direction you're moving. If you're moving from the ayin base towards the yesh, then you say that he's ayin l'gabi the yesh. But if you're moving backwards from the ayin base l'gabi the ayin aleph, then you say that he's a Matthias Dova, and he has to be a Matthias Dova because otherwise he wouldn't be able to be Mahavada. So come to this, we got him from two different, what you might call, standpoints of observation, depending on which way you look. And if you go from the Matthias of the elements back to him, then that's one in it. If you go, however, from him to Gavi much higher, then it's another. In other words, one direction produces you ayin, and the other direction produces you a Matthias Dova upon him. So there, so the Rebbe does the sikum of that biur. So therefore, come to us that we call it ayin. The word ayin is really a shem amushal. It's like a borrowed name. It's not really ayin b'emes. Avaloshu b'chinas ayin b'etzem v'nimtzo, and it follows the imiyos tishneim nikroim ayin, both the ayin hamiti and the ayin of the yesh. Both of them are called ayin. We call mokim amitias shem ayin hu b'chinas o ayin shel yeshua miti. Yeshu b'chinas ayin mamish b'chinas pshitas u b'chinas heder hama tzius mamish. Like we've seen barichas in the earlier part of the Maimah, that we see that these two inyonim lead one to the other. If we say it's poshu b'tachos pshitas, then that implies that it is beheder hama tzius. And Lagabi, the whole concept of Matzias, the way we understand it, something which is poshut is not in that whole league at all. There's no shaykhs to the even of Matzias Beklal. However, we did say that something which is poshut can give off a spashtas. That's what we saw earlier in the previous page. It can give off a spashtas, but if it does, it's spashtas b'li gvul, because it's not begeder Matthias, and therefore there's nothing which can limit whatever it is. So if it's a spashtas mizeh, then it's also unlimited. And that's mitzad the sfora opshita. Whatever says the Rebbe, that's the union of the yayin of the yesh amiti, and therefore mitzad his pshitas, which leads us to the concept of heder amatiyas mamish lochem be'emes einu be'erav mokel oilamas klal. Sure. However, like we pointed out earlier, and we stated that clearly, that even though he's not a mokel legabi the oilamas, but what we call a mokel he is able to be. In other words, the ayin aleph is able to be like a mocker to a mocker. We brought down from the Imri Bina, the Mittler Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe over there, the Shara Krishma. He brings out the ayin aleph is, albeit not between us Matthias, never he's not a mocker oilamas, or he is a mocker to produce eventually a mocker. So, albeit, that mokir that he produces is only alidei tzimtzum v'yerida sa'erach mimeno, but upon him it's still shy to say that if not him, you wouldn't have had the second mokir. In other words, he has some form, ultimately, of a kesher with the second in him, which becomes the mokir. And therefore, said the Rebbe, he's a mokir Mokeh, albeit in a distant way, but he is a Mokeh L'Mokeh. I have him happy. Wie zal dat zijn? If it's betachas shapshitas and so on, how does it become a Mokeh L'Mokeh? And he said, "V'rak b'zeh, shehu b'chinas hamshocha al kol ponim, harihu b'chinas Mokeh L'Mokeh kanal." Ein zeh shehu be'etzem b'chinas shaychus elo elamas, רק מה שבזה שהוא נמצא יוכל יש אחר כך האורה השייך לאילם אבל הוא בעצם אין לו שום שייכות כלל. Here's a very famous example of how in Chassidus we always start off with a thing and then we give you a cake, but then we tell you got to eat it as well. We let you have it, but then we take it back. So here's an amazing statement, which is like, Mamish dancing onto Chasna. So the Rebbe said, how is it a Mokeh L'Mokeh? How does it become a Mokeh L'Mokeh? He said, if it's a Gilui, the Pshitas of the Atzmas, how can it be a Mokeh L'Mokeh? So he says, you want to know how? He said, because Rak Bozeh, it's only in this that it's a Mokeh L'Mokeh. Yes, Shehu B'Pchines Amshocha Al Chaponim. In other words, what does Amshocha mean? Derivation. And every derivation implies some sort of a yerida. If I say that this is nimshach mizeh, then it comes out that that's not mamish zeh. If it's nimshach mimeno, then it's eishu. What is it then? It's a gilui mimeno. If a gilui, then gilui implies ultimately that you're revealing to something. You can't say I'm gilui if there's no receiver. Yeah, ultimately, when you say that's a gilui, then you're implying that ultimately it's not right now. There's going to be a makabel. And even that you say there's shocha me, ha'atzmas, in the form of an inim which he, from him, later there's going to eventually, there's eventually going to be a mokeh to the ilamas, and you say that was a hamshocha, a skalas koshu, a siman, that even though he's not really the mokeh, but the very fact that you made him and you brought him there, that makes it possible that eventually you will have the mokeh. On the one hand you say he's not a mokeh b'klal, he's not a direct mokeh. But if he weren't there and he hadn't been nimshon for the atzmas, forget it, you would never have a mokeh, because the atzmas is not a mokeh. Cholila v'chor, alila, but only once he's been megarer, that amshocha from him, then you can talk about eventually producing a mokeh. Because, you've made him somehow or another not the atzmas, he's nimtza min atzmas. Yeah, but even, like we said, the whole way that these oiras are made from the aspects we don't understand. Of course, if he is there, if he's there, then eventually there'll be the other muchutin. How do you say the other in-law will come into the play, then eventually you'll have the aina abayis. Rak b'zeh shehu nimta. This is a very fascinating idea of a mokeh. He's not mitzadecha cholila to say that he's a mokeh. Mitzadasheni, if he weren't there, you would never get to the mokeh, which means that he must be some form of a mokeh ela. A mokeh in a very distant way, he's a mokeh ela mokeh. And that's the nakuda. In other words, I'm saying both things. I'm having my cake and eat it, too. But he said, rak bozeh. In the very fact that he's amshocha al koponim, hariu b'chinas mokeh le mokeh, ve'ein zeh shehu etzem b'chinas shayches. He doesn't have any shayches to the things which are going to be eventually nimshach mi'a ayin base. No shayches whatsoever. Rak mashe bozeh shehu nimta. The very fact that he's there and he came about, yuchal liyos achar ha'ora ha'shayches la'ilamaz. Aber hu b'etzem no shum shayches klal. He himself has no shayches whatsoever. Nimta lefizeh, that the very fact that he's nimta, that's already making everything possible. It's a fascinating idea that you some famushitas. If you talk about the atzmas, you can never have a mokeh for anything. But if you talk about a ha'ora, a thing which is only a luminescence, then from a luminescence, you can always get further towards being a mocker towards something. Because a luminescence, like we said before, is Eino Mina, it's mi'ain, it's got a certain koyach of the atmos in it. Alein is a co-Indian with the atmos behemoth. It's not even mi'ain. And if you dance on, once again, slightly on two chassan. On the one hand you say, he is mi'ain ha'etzim, like on the other hand we just said, Eino mi'ain ha'etzim klau. And therefore both things can be true. You take away him from the atmos b'derech ha'ora, and therefore you get away from the absolute simplicity of the atmos. On the other hand, he's still enough of a mi'ain, and still enough of a ha'ora, that he can't do it yet. Oh, but you already moved away from the atmos, and therefore b'derech tzimtzum, and b'derech you read a oid, then it's possible to reach a mokir. He's like a catalyst. The fact that he's there makes it possible, but not that he really is the one that does it. If it hadn't been for him, so it's very similar to the concept of, I don't know if you guys are familiar, I'm certainly not a chemist or a physicist, but a catalyst is something, if that thing weren't there, then the whole thing wouldn't happen. If it's there, not that it really has a direct connection with the whole thing. Now, Mamela does it in a kuda. And Mela says, it's Eino, befriendes, Sheiches, Klau, Chodile. Where are we? V'lochein, aber hu be'etzem ein lo yishum shayches klau. Umuva, it follows then, shezehu b'madrega ha'yos gavoyos. Ukanal, inyan reisha de lo yisyada. V'chein hu b'shorshei l'mayla. So the Rebbe said, that it follows from that, however, it's moving, it's appreciable from that this applies even in the highest madregas. In other words, if you already say madrega, you already mean that something was misgala from the atmos, then you can already talk about all these things on him, even if you go very, very high. Like we said before, in the infant Reisha Deloi is Yada. What is Reisha Deloi is Yada? That's Penimisati. And he said over on the other page, if you remember, well, who knows if you remember, you don't, but on page Yudalad at the bottom, he said that the Reisha Deloi is Yada, it's not known to the Oilamas, for Lo Yoda, they didn't know about it, so that's Tachlisah, how bittul, it's got the most ultimate bittul, the Gabi the Atzmas, and yet nonetheless, what is Atik? Atik is the beginning of the whole Kabul. After you've got the Yinifanatik, you can get down to Chitonius Atik, and then you can get to Arik, and you can get even further. Albeit there are Tzimtzumim Oid. Also, of course, of Atik, what does Atik mean? Ne Tak Mia Atzmas. One of the Pirushim in Atik is that it's copied over from the Atzmas this way. Another one is Ne Tak Mia Oilam is back the other way. One of the Pirushim is it's killed like a swing over from the Atzmas, and that's the Kesha. In the Zohar Kodesh, Atik is called Kutra Iloah, the Most High, isn't it? Are you writing something, are you? Very good. The infant Kutra Iloah means the infant Kesha. Kutra Iloah. The first Kesha with the elements is Atik. And yet nonetheless we say Lo Yoda, it's Atikali cut bottle, it doesn't know anything. And yet nonetheless it's the beginning of the, and now he goes on to say V'cheinu b'shorshei l'mayla. That's already one of the Giluim for the Atmos. That's in the infant Atik. How much more? So if you go higher than that, in other words, you go into the Eretz Lifnei Atimtu and who knows what, it's all the same Indian, right? You got the Etzemoy, and you got this Pashtasoy, you got this, you always got the thing which is if it weren't for the Etzemoy, then you wouldn't be able to have the is Pashas. Always has to be Kiru a start. And once you get the start from the Atmos, then you can go further. And that's what he means. That even Atik's got a Sherish. Even Atik has a Sherish. Good. All right, my gentlemen, we'll hold there for this evening. And it would be nice if we get a few guys together and we'll say some Tillim. Did you get the message around? Yeah. You told everybody? We'll say a few Tillim. For this Shimon Leibowitz. I hear that he's in quite a serious situation. It all happened in a few hours. They took him to the hospital, they started to operate him, and then something went wrong, and they put him into the, what's it called, the tipo, what they call it, how do you say it in English?